Order. We start with questions. Secretary of State for Scotland, Gregor Poynton.
Question number 1, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr Speaker, with permission, I will answer questions 1 and 10 together. I'm sure members across the House will have seen this morning's wonderful news and join me in congratulating Ferguson Marine and winning a substantial MOD shipbuilding contract through BAE Systems. It's a great news for the workforce who will play a key role in keeping our country and its people safe. Shipbuilding on the Clyde is thriving thanks to the UK Government's record investment in defence, supporting 4,000 jobs. This is a real defence dividend for Scotland. Investment the SNP seeks to block, but Mr Speaker, Labour will build. Mr Speaker, this is the last Scottish orals before summer recess, so can I just thank you, all your team and the House staff for all their work over the last year. Mr Speaker, this was a historic spending review for Scotland that ended austerity. Along with last year's budget, it delivers an extra £14 billion as a UK Labour Government dividend to Scotland. More money for our NHS, police, housing and schools. Scots will not accept continued SNP failure on Scottish public services and will be rightly asking the SNP, where has all the money gone?
Gregor Poynton.
Thank you, Minister, for that response. This UK Labour Government is delivering the largest budgetary settlement in the history of devolution, an extra £9.1 billion to invest in Scottish public services. Yet the SNP Scottish Government continue to squander opportunity after opportunity and waste the public's money. Will the Minister join me in urging the SNP Scottish Government to get a grip and invest in projects that matter to our communities, like East Calder Medical Centre, which has not materialised after SNP dither and delay?
Mr Speaker, I absolutely join my honourable friend in that call, and may I pay tribute to his tenacious campaigning to see East Calder's new medical centre delivered. I have 10,000 GP places short in my own constituency. It's something the SNP need to take on seriously. The spending review generated £5.8 billion in health-related Barnett consequentials for Scotland. The honourable member is right to stand up for his community in East Calder, and I ask the SNP, where has all the money gone?
Katrina Murray.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I have previously praised in this chamber the efforts of the Fire and Rescue Service in responding to more than one major incident in Cumbernauld. Therefore, both myself and my constituents are concerned that the proposed cuts to Cumbernauld Fire Station will undermine the ability to respond to incidents and put lives at risk. Can I ask the Secretary of State to make representations to the Scottish Government to invest in fire services in one of Scotland's largest towns?
Mr Speaker, my honourable friend quite rightly speaks out against the cuts to Cumbernauld Fire Station, which sadly is just one example of the SNP's dangerous mismanagement of Scotland's fire services, as I met the Fire Brigade Union in Scotland were telling me just last month. There are 9.1 billion reasons why the SNP government should be choosing to invest in local services, including in Cumbernauld, but after 18 years of failure and neglect, my honourable friend's constituents will rightly not hold out much hope. Across Scotland, we need a new direction next May with Anas Sarwar as the First Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does the Secretary of State share my view that whatever the budget that the SNP Scottish Government have, they have cynically and systematically deprived funding from areas that do not support independence, leaving councils like Dumfries and Galloway and Scottish Borders and their health boards struggling to provide basic services?
Mr Speaker, I also just extend that to the right honourable gentleman to say the whole of Scotland voted against independence in 2014, and it seems to me that the SNP government strategy is to starve all of Scotland's public services the vital funding that they require.
Maria Cross.
Mr Speaker, of course the spending review came off the back of last year's autumn budget, which hit businesses in my Gordon and Buchan constituency in North East Scotland very hard, whether it was family businesses and farms with the changes to agricultural property leaf and BPR, whether it was the extension and increase to the EPL hitting our vital oil and gas sector and investment there. So what conversations is he actively having with the Treasury to ensure that North East Scotland doesn't again have to pay the price for this government's decisions next year?
Mr Speaker, I've had a minimum of 14 billion conversations with the Treasury with regards to funding in Scotland as the largest settlement ever in the Scottish Parliament's history. That's the decisions of this government in terms of the October budget, and indeed the spending review has given us the highest growth in the G7, the highest business confidence in a decade, record inward investment, 3 major trade deals, the conditions for 4 interest rate cuts, all helping businesses right across Scotland. Everything, of course, that the Honourable Lady and her party voted against.
The Democrat spokesperson, Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. And like the Secretary of State for Scotland, I'd like to welcome the great news for Ferguson Marine this morning. Scottish Liberal Democrats, as he knows, secured funding for key projects across Scotland in last year's Scottish budget negotiations, including the Pavilion in Edinburgh, which is so important for my constituents in Edinburgh West and his. And we welcome the additional funding as part of the spending review to help projects like this. But because almost 2 decades of SNP mismanagement has left our health service in dire need of investment and improvement, does the Secretary of State agree with me that the SNP should invest this wisely in GPs, dentists and care, so our constituents can see the same focus on innovation in health as was announced by the UK Government last week?
Mr Speaker, the Honourable Lady does mention a good point about the Pavilion in Edinburgh, which is a symptom of the whole of the strategy of the Scottish Government in terms of our NHS services. They promised a new Pavilion in 07, 11, 16 and 21 in their manifestos and is yet to deliver it. I bet we see the same process and the same promises in their May manifesto next year. Mr Speaker, you'll know that the 1 in 6 Scots are stuck on a waiting list, an NHS app that is years behind other parts of the UK, and we have the worst cancer waiting times on record. The worst cancer waiting times on record. So I'm sure the Honourable Lady and millions of other Scots know that the SNP has failed their NHS, and if they had any idea how to fix it, they'd have done it by now.
Stephen Giffins.
Mr Speaker, during the spending review period, the Scottish Government will have to continue to mitigate some of the cruellest Westminster policies. Had to do that under the Tories. It continues under Labour, not least on the 2-child cap. So can the Minister tell us if there are any plans to scrap it?
Mr Speaker, the Honourable Gentleman and his colleagues voted against the budget. They voted against all of the measures to raise revenue in the budget, and they voted against the actual spending of it. There's £14 billion extra going into the Scottish budget. From the second that this Labour government took power just over a year ago, there's £14 billion more. They need to be spending it well, and I'm sure the Scottish public will look very, very dimly on a Scottish Government that can't spend it and improve our public services.
Speaker, I'm not sure the Secretary of State quite caught the question there. We voted against the 2-child cap. If there's cash to go round and UK departments are getting bigger spending increases in the Scottish Government, why won't he prioritise child poverty, which was described by the Child Poverty Action Group as being the far most cost-effective way to cut child poverty was to get rid of the 2-child cap, described by the Pensions Minister as being immoral. And the Cabinet Office's recent report tackling child poverty saying there's a lot we can learn from action being taken in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Will he make scrapping the 2-child poverty cap a priority, or will he insist on failed Tory policies?
Mr Speaker, the Honourable Gentleman wants to keep the failed broken welfare system that the Tories put in by these votes last week. But what we've done as a government, we've had a pay rise for 200,000 Scots, day one rights for sick leave and parental leave, £150 of energy bills for over 500,000 Scottish households. We've banned exploitative 0-hours contracts, and there's 10,000 children in Scotland every single night going to bed without a home. That's a dreadful record for the Scottish Government.
Question 2, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, artificial intelligence will drive incredible change in our country. It will turbocharge growth and it will boost living standards. Scotland, as we know well, has been the UK's home of AI since 1963, and it will become the home of the most powerful supercomputer in the UK, with this Labour government investing £750 million in its development at Edinburgh University's Advanced Computing Facility in Midlothian. We are currently assessing applications for AI growth zones from across the UK, including several from Scotland, which is at the cutting edge of computing power globally.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I thank the Minister for her answer? It is refreshing to have a UK government so committed to investing in and developing AI. In comparison to John Swinney and the Scottish Government stuck in an analogue age, unable to even provide patients and staff with a functioning NHS app. Does she agree with me that the towns of Airdrie and Shorts and indeed North Lanarkshire, a former industrial heartland, are incredibly well placed to serve as an AI growth zone and capture the clear ambition the government has?
Mr Speaker, much like my honourable friend, who is a truly passionate advocate for his community, I too am proud to represent one of Scotland's industrial heartlands. He's right to highlight the role that they can play in Scotland's AI future. And as for his comments regarding the First Minister, my right honourable friend, the Health Secretary, was particularly astute in his assessment. I'm afraid the First Minister is from the age of Taggart, and what's upon us is the age of Department Q.
Angus Martin.
Thank you, Chairman. The transmission line from Skye to Fort Augustus has been approved. Due to a technicality, the people along the route will be deprived of £22 million. Would the Minister take this up with Ofgem? Thank you very much.
Mr Speaker, I'm led to believe the honourable member has already picked this up with the Secretary of State and he'll be taking it forward. But yes, I'd be delighted to talk to him about that.
Talk cry.
Number 3, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Secretary of State and I are committed to supporting a flourishing broadcasting sector in Scotland and regularly meet its representatives. I know that my honourable friend for Healing and Yar was part of a recent engagement when the Scotland office was delighted to co-host with MG Alba, at which he spoke passionately about the importance of Gaelic broadcasting, and we share his commitment to it.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We Islanders have always been international ambassadors, and I'm delighted that some of the Lewis chess pieces are going to France. A little bit of Gaelic Scotland in President Macron's pocket. Gaelic broadcasting also has a global reach, 1.8 million viewers of Inéla and MG Alba's detective series. Gaelic is a big part of Brand Scotland. Now, it's a straightforward ask to ask for more money for broadcasting, but can I ask ministers to think more imaginatively about growth deals? Can we see a Scotland-wide growth deal for Gaelic, for cultural heritage like the Lewis chess pieces, for childcare, so we grow the social infrastructure of Scotland as well as its physical infrastructure?
Mr Speaker, my honourable friend makes an interesting point, and he's been advancing this case, and he's right that the whole objective of the growth deals is to support people to live well in the places that they love. As he knows, the UK Government has delivered a historic spending review for Scotland, and it includes ambitious plans for local growth to be the foundation of national renewal. The Scotland Office will continue to engage with him and other members across the House and with Scottish local government to ensure that local growth investment supports the change that Labour promised and the change that our communities want to see.
Gregory.
Mr Speaker, there have been a number of co-productions between BBC NI and BBC Scotland. Would the Minister agree with me that we should develop and promote co-productions across the nations and the regions of the United Kingdom so that we can get excellence and best practice wherever it occurs right across the United Kingdom?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I do agree with him that we should be cooperating as far as possible, but it's also important to record for the House that steps have been taken to preserve the future of homegrown content and talent already through initiatives such as the UK Government's independent film tax credit and high-end tax relief, providing a real opportunity for the industry to grow. But I'd certainly be delighted to talk to him about how the industry in Scotland and Northern Ireland could cooperate more effectively.
John Brady.
Question 4, please, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr Speaker, the industrial strategy is transformational for Scotland. A year ago, this government inherited an industrial crisis after 14 years of no plan and a complete disinterest from the SNP and the Conservatives when it came to Scottish industry. Can I, though, congratulate the SNP for their job creation programme? They've created tens of thousands of jobs in China, Turkey and Poland. Rather than standing up for Scotland, they've been shipping Scottish jobs overseas. Scotland has a proud industrial past, and Labour's industrial strategy will work to ensure we have a bright industrial future, and the Scotland Office will be doing all we can to exploit those opportunities.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The industrial strategy identifies defence as a key industry. It is a big employer in Glasgow and could create many good jobs for my constituents. However, the SNP have banned the Scottish National Investment Bank and Scottish Enterprise from investing in defence companies. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that this shows that the SNP government are weak on defending Scotland and are denying Glaswegians many good jobs?
Mr Speaker, you'll be unsurprised to hear me say that I agree with my honourable friend. I was astonished to learn that the SNP were blocking investment in a national specialist welding centre on the banks of the Clyde. That's putting their own student politics before job opportunities for working class young people, especially at a time when 1 in 6 are not in education, employment or training. Politics before people, it just isn't good enough. But where the SNP stand down, Labour will step up and fund that centre. We'll invest in defence and create a defence dividend, which means jobs and opportunities for everyone in Scotland.
Dave Dugan.
Mr. Speaker. With the exception of London, the vortex that sucks in wealth, capital and talent from across these islands, it is Scotland who tops the league for foreign direct investment. It is Aberdeen, Glasgow and Edinburgh who are in the top 10 cities in the UK for foreign direct investment, and that's been for 10 of the 18 years that the SNP have been in power. What's the Scottish Secretary done ever to get FDI into Scotland?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman needs to calm down a little bit, I feel, because one of the key investment opportunities into Scotland, of course, is into the renewable energy sector to be able to make our plan for clean energy by 2030. A lot of that will be capitalised by both the National Wealth Fund and indeed GB Energy. Two things that the honourable gentleman and his party voted against, Mr. Speaker.
Shut the Secretary of State, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this past Sunday, the 6th of July, marked 37 years since the Piper Alpha disaster, an incident that claimed the lives of 165 men and affected many more, particularly in and around the north east of Scotland. We remember them, their families, their friends, and indeed all of those who continue to do the dangerous work offshore in our oil and gas industry, ensuring that the lights stay on in this country. Could the right honourable gentleman please tell the House, when will the industrial strategy replace the tens of thousands of jobs set to be lost in the North Sea on his watch?
Mr. Speaker, can I join the honourable gentleman in paying respects on the 37th anniversary of the Piper Alpha disaster? It's left an indelible scar on Scotland, and we will never forget the lives that were lost. But we'll also never forget the catalyst that was for making sure that the North Sea in the UK is the safest place to do oil and gas anywhere in the world, and is world leading on that. Mr. Speaker, I can merely answer that question by saying to the honourable gentleman that all of the initiatives that this government has put forward in terms of getting to clean power by 2030, he and his party have opposed. And I would gently say to the honourable gentleman that when he finds out who the former Energy Minister was in the previous government, he's going to be very disappointed.
Andrew Bowie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are very proud of our record in supporting the oil and gas industry, and talk about having their head in the sand. 400 jobs are going to be lost in the North Sea every 2 weeks on his watch. That is a Grangemouth-size event every 2 weeks. The only strategy that this government has is a de-industrialisation strategy. There is an industry ready, willing, and with just the skilled workforce ready to generate energy, generate revenue and generate jobs in Scotland. So come on, Secretary of State, let's have a real industrialisation strategy. Remove the energy profits levy, overturn the ban on licences, and let's return to a policy of maximum economic recovery from the North Sea.
Mr. Speaker, the energy profits levy was brought in by the former Energy Minister in the previous government, who so happens to be sitting across from me at the dispatch box today. We have the North Sea Transition Consultation, which is closed. That sets out the pathway to a just transition in the North Sea. That's to protect jobs. And of course, we want to get to that clean power by 2030. Those are the jobs and the careers of the future, but that transition has to take those jobs with them.
Alfred Brown.
Question number 5.
Minister.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer questions 5 and 14 together. Scotland cultivates the very best produce in the world, and we are absolutely committed to supporting Scotland's agricultural sector, and indeed all those who live and work in our rural communities. I was very pleased that the Scottish Government's Minister for Agriculture and Connectivity joined me in a food and farming roundtable I hosted in Edinburgh in April. We heard directly then from the sector about how Scotland's two governments can best collaborate and continue to support those that put food on our table.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like farmers in my constituency of Chester South and Eddisbury, farmers in Scotland feel let down by this government's disregard for agriculture and the countryside. We've seen Labour look the other way as the Scottish Government delivered real-term cuts to the agriculture budget. Scottish Conservatives have set out a clear, multi-year plan to give farmers the certainty they need. So will the Secretary of State urge the First Minister to back that plan, which has strong support from the farming community, and help reverse the damage done to Scottish agriculture and our food security?
Mr Speaker, the Scottish Government has been given a record settlement in the devolution era, and it's now for the devolved governments to allocate their funding in devolved areas as they see fit. They are accountable to their own legislators and indeed the Scottish public. That's a key principle of devolution, and this Labour Government will respect it.
John Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We Conservatives were vilified when we pointed out that the vindictive changes to farming reliefs were going to damage jobs in rural Scotland. The Scotland Office conducted its own roundtable speaking to agriculture figures. Will the honourable gentleman share the results of that with the House, with the Scottish Government and, crucially, also with whoever the Deputy Prime Minister decides will be the next Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Mr Speaker, I'd be delighted to report back to the House and to Scotland's rural communities, including my own in Midlothian, about the outcomes of the farming roundtable. What we heard from stakeholders directly was that they wanted support and, crucially, for the two governments to work together, which is exactly why we had the Scottish Government around the table.
Mr Speaker, does the Minister agree that Scottish agriculture, salmon and distilleries like Lockleigh in my constituency will benefit from our 3 trade deals? But can she work out why the SNP failed to support them?
Mr Speaker, those 3 trade deals are, of course, some of the proudest achievements of this Labour Government, and they will disproportionately benefit Scotland because it is, as I have already said, home to some of the finest produce on the face of the earth, and we are delighted to be promoting it as part of the Scotland Office's Grand Scotland efforts.
Mr Speaker, does my honourable friend agree it is the Chancellor's excellent spending review for Scotland, setting out record funding for the Scottish Government, which means SNP ministers are ideally placed to offer the agricultural sector in Scotland a multi-year funding settlement, and that's exactly what they should now do.
Mr Speaker, I agree with my honourable friend that the Scottish Government has been blessed with a record settlement in the devolution era. The difficulty for those of us on this side of the House that championed that settlement is that we are all too well aware that I'm afraid the Scottish Government is absolutely addicted to wasting money, which is why the only route for Scotland to have a new direction is to replace a failing Scottish Government with a Labour one in May.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this weekend I was at the Fettercairn show in my constituency, and I noted that 2 weeks ago the Secretary of State was at the Royal Highland Show in Edinburgh. Now, with new research showing that more than 16,000 jobs are expected to be lost as a direct result of Labour's family farm tax, can I ask the Secretary of State and the Minister what their message to farmers that they met at the Royal Highland Show was regarding their government plans to kill family farms in Scotland? Because judging by the comments made this weekend, to me, the fear, anger and disgust at how this government has treated the agricultural sector and rural Scotland very much remains.
Mr Speaker, our message to the farming community, including NFUS Scotland, with whom I meet regularly, and indeed to whom I spoke at their annual conference earlier, was there has to be fairness in the government's approach to the public finances. The latest figures from 2021 to 22 show that 40% of the value of APR went to just 7% of claimants. That is neither fair nor sustainable.
To Luke Evans.
Number 6, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, the ruling brings clarity and confidence for women and service providers such as hospitals, refugees and sports clubs. Single-sex spaces are protected by law under Labels Equality Act 2010 and will always be protected by this government, alongside the rights of the trans community, as was stated by the Supreme Court.
Luke Evans.
Mr Speaker, Joe Griffin, the Permanent Secretary of the Scottish Government, in appearing in front of the Hollywood Finance Public Administration Committee, was asked about action taken relating to the Supreme Court judgment. When pushed, he said, specific actions, I can't give you that right now. So does the UK Government believe that the Scottish Government is failing to uphold the law?
Mr Speaker, the application of the Supreme Court ruling to services in Scotland is a matter, of course, for the Scottish Government. It's for the Scottish Government to ensure they fully comply with the law as it stands.
Imogen Walker.
Mr Speaker, the Supreme Court judgment provided very welcome legal clarity on the matter of biological sex. But the Scottish Government has met clarity with chaos. Does the Secretary of State agree with me that the SNP has made an absolute mess of this in much the same way that they have made a mess of passing on the biggest settlement in the history of devolution to Scottish NHS, education and housing services? And isn't it time they got a grip?
Mr. Speaker, I think the F word could be used in terms of whatever the Scottish Government has done, and that is the word failure. And if it comes to the elections in May 2026 next year, the Scottish public will have to decide whether or not they require a third decade of the SNP Scottish Government or a change with Anas Sarwar as First Minister.
Jerome Mayor.
Number 7, sir.
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, under this government is working people in Scotland who will feel the benefit of economic growth. We've given the largest settlement in the history of the Scottish Government, £14 billion extra. The stability in the economy has enabled us to have 4 interest rate cuts, meaning cheaper mortgages for homeowners. Fuel duty is frozen, meaning 3 million Scots motorists pay less at the pump. The minimum wage is up, meaning a pay rise for 200,000 of the lowest paid Scots. And that deserves the largest cheer because it is for the lowest paid Scots, and the Warm Homes discount is extended to 500,000 Scots.
The jobs tax decimated business confidence and has seen unemployment rise. The budget blow to Scotch whisky, the attack on family farms, the undermining of the oil and gas industry, and now Scottish Hospitality Group has slated the spending review, saying it does absolutely nothing to support the sector. So will he work with the Chancellor to undo the damage of her budget and her spending review that they've inflicted on family farms, Scotch whisky, oil and gas industry, hospitality, entertainment and business confidence in Scotland?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman should go and speak to Scottish businesses and apologise for voting against the budget and apologise for voting against the £14 billion extra that will go to Scotland as part of the spending review. As a result of the decisions taken by this government, we had the highest growth in the G7, the highest business confidence in a decade, record inward investment, 3 major trade deals, 4 interest rate cuts, all helping businesses right across the country.
Joanna Baxter.
Mr. Speaker, it's fantastic news that Ferguson Marine has secured this contract with BAE Systems to help further enhance the UK's maritime capability and making use of the skilled workforce there. Does my right honourable friend agree that this is in sharp contrast to the student union politics played by the SNP government in relation to defence? And does the Minister agree with me that the benefits of the spending review cannot be fully assessed until the SNP are removed from power in 2026?
Mr. Speaker, yet again I agree with my right honourable friend, and can I pay a special tribute to both her and my honourable friend, the member for Inverclyde and Renfrewshire West, who have done so much to make sure we can get work into Ferguson Marine. But again, Mr. Speaker, it won't be lost on the House or indeed the Scottish public that it's the defence industry that's supporting jobs in Scotland's defence industry, and that is straight into Ferguson Marine. Whereas the Scottish Government walks past on the other side, we will invest, Mr. Speaker.
We now come